campaign 2024. And I want to address something that a super texter shared. Because I might be guilty of oversimplifying what I see as the clear path forward in 2024. I believe Trump's the man. There are other candidates on the ballot, sure. If you've decided you're a DeSantis person or a Nikki Haley person, I don't hate you for it. I do believe that eventually you're going to have to shift back to Trump because Trump's going to win the nomination and he will go against Joe Biden or whomever the Democrats decide to replace Joe Biden with when the time comes. And I still think that's going to happen. But 8186 writes in and says, I appreciate your work, but it's not 2016. Don't diminish the huge element of surprise held by Trump as opposed to 2020. The ground game, ballot cheating, harvesting were evident with the Biden win. Instead of reminding us of our right to vote, could we focus on harvesting, pressure on elected officials, ground game for whatever is left of the spineless GOP? And I wrote back and said, I agree. I'm not trying to oversimplify this. I'm mostly referring to the never Trumper reaction in my 2016 comparison. And I am. A lot of conservatives have their lips pooched out at the idea of having to go and vote for Trump. And many are saying that they will not. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. Were the Trump years not good enough for you? Did Donald Trump not govern in a manner more consistent with your values? Am I missing something, Never Trumpers? A lot of these Never Trumpers sound like Democrats today. Lincoln Project, Bill Kristol, all of them. And I had my doubts about them before Trump. Trump exposed them for what they are. Establishment, deep state, bureaucrat Republicans. Not conservatives, Republicans. And it's high time we called them out for it. Now, more to the point for 8186. You're right. We must collectively demand a better system of presidential elections than we currently have. It is one thing for the state of California to vote itself into oblivion. It's another thing for the state of Washington to vote themselves into oblivion. But it's a different matter altogether when they have influence over our beliefs and our value systems and our ability to elect a president of our choosing through cheating and doing so in violation of their own rules. So I do believe that we need a basic set of parameters around presidential elections. I am loath to call for it because I understand that we are 50 separate experiments in these United States of America. United States of America. And the states themselves have the ability to hold elections in a manner of their choosing. And that is an important concept in American history. But because the Democrats have demonstrated that they will lie, cheat, or steal in any way possible to secure elections, fraudulently or otherwise, it's time that we have some basic standards. I'll tell you, I've thought about this, and I've not fully fleshed out the premise. But I was thinking about this the other night on the subject of national standards for voting in a presidential election. I think Republicans might have missed the boat when we were debating 15 or 20 years ago national ID cards. Because would that not be a simple way to standardize presidential elections now? Now, many people, and I understand why. I understand a lot of you are freaking out even at the mention of it. You freak out when you say something like national ID card because it is reminiscent of, we must see your papers, please. I get it. I understand it. But in terms of voting, should there not be, you don't have to call it a national ID card. Should there not be standards by which individuals can vote in a presidential election? If I were king for the day, here's what I would do. Sunday, Monday, You could do Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or you could do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I don't care which way you do it. I'm not beholden to the Tuesday vote, but do Friday, Saturday, Sunday voting. 72-hour voting period, no early voting, no mail-in balloting. You must vote in person unless you have a valid and we can describe and list of those reasons why you cannot be there in person. Obviously, military service is one of them. Infirmity is another reason. Being out of town, a legitimate out-of-town excuse, is another reason. I believe that absentee balloting and absentee voting has gone fairly well in the communities and the states that do it effectively. But we must stop. We must stop. We must stop this extended early voting time that gives the political left, who have no morals about them, the ability to lie, cheat, and steal their way into winning elections, quote unquote winning elections. I do believe that we need to standardize the process of voting for president of the United States, because blue states are taking away our ability to make a choice that determines our future, and they're doing so in violation of their own laws. And even some purple states like Pennsylvania. 615-737-9986. Brian says they had standards for the COVID vaccine to prove you had it. I don't understand what that has to do with what we're talking about, Brian, but I appreciate the comment. If there were federal election laws concerning who can vote right now, wouldn't Joe Biden be in charge of enforcing those laws? Something to think about. Well, the states would still enforce the laws in place. You would just standardize the process by which you vote in a presidential election. And then the states themselves have to live up to those standards, but it gives individuals an ability to challenge some of the determinations in the individual states where we have seen more of a propensity to cheat. I mean, let me give you an example. Like, if you had certain federal standards, that would give more standing in a court of law for me to challenge Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Secretary of State went against Pennsylvania law as written and passed by the Pennsylvania legislature with regard to mail-in balloting. And a judge said, well, no, COVID's going on, so we're going to suspend those rules. And the Pennsylvania legislature said, whoa, wait. And now the Secretary of State's a Democrat. The legislature is majority Republican, and the legislature said, whoa, wait a minute, what are you doing? We specifically said these are the rules for voting. These are the rules for mail-in ballots. You cannot violate these rules. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, no, the Secretary of State, they're extenuating circumstances, and it's an emergency situation. They're all good. And you push that up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says, wait a minute, no other state has standing as to tell Pennsylvania what to do or how to do their business when it comes to elections. If you have certain protocols and standards set in stone on the federal level, I'm not promoting growth in the federal government for no reason. I'm promoting growth in the federal government to try to avoid some of the pitfalls that we saw in 2020 and the willingness that the political left has to, by any means necessary, destroy this country as we know it. That's my goal. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm willing to listen to your suggestions as well. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986, either via phone or super text. I'm playing this by popular request.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
Okay, she did say
first, you're last.
Yes, Ricky Bobby and Nikki Bobby there, hand in hand, explaining that if you're not first, you're last. I misreported something, and someone on the super text line said, I think you're misreporting it. I thought she said two-man race. She did not.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
It is an odd flex.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Thank you, Nikki Bobby. It is an odd flex when you just finished third that you would do that. So I have that by popular demand. I also have Rachel Maddow explaining why they can't cover Donald Trump anymore. That's by popular demand. Plus your calls on election security, how important it is moving forward in 2024, especially considering that it looks like Donald Trump's race to lose on the Republican side of things.